Scientific risk assessment prior to undertaking tunnel work is a must. Barely a week after the remains of 9 coal miners were recovered at the end of 44-day operation from a coal mine that had flooded Assam in early January. A disaster of similar contours, this time in Nagarkurnool, Telangana, is in the making. A portion of the Srisailam Left Bank Canal tunnel, which is under construction, collapsed on February 22, leaving 8 workers trapped. What is known so far that the 3-meter section of the roof collapsed due to water seepage. The roof collapsed eventually led to tunnel crumbling over a stretch of 8 meters. Despite 9 specialized rescue teams drawn from the center and from state governments working round the clock, no significant progress has been made so far on ascertaining the conditions of the workers and in devising an optimal rescue plan. So far, the playbook that is being experimented with seems to be inspired by the successful rescue work in the Silkyara tunnel collapse in Uttarkashi in November 23, where a portion of the 4-kilometer long tunnel that was being constructed collapsed, stranding 41 workers. It took a 16-day operation that started out on with a variety of approaches, including drilling horizontally and later vertically from both ends of the tunnel to reach the stranded workers. In the end, key breakthroughs were achieved by a team of rat-hole miners from Assam who used manual excavation methods that are considered hazardous and deemed illegal. The key difference between Silkyara episode and the one in Sri Sailam is the presence of water. There were 70 workers in the tunnel when a deluge of water and mud suddenly began to gush inside. Barring the 8, the rest escaped, with 13 of them sustaining injuries. However, in subsequent days, it is the torrential flow that has proved to be a barrier to rescue operations. The history of tunneling disasters globally shows that while rare, they can often be catastrophic. Large proportion of these accidents, studies show, that are due to rupture in aquifers, underground water channels. It is to determine such risk that extensive studies are to be commissioned to understand the subsurface geology of a site. A report by the Uttarakhand Disaster Management Authority on the Silkyara episode says that there was insufficient analysis of the rock formations at Silkyara, but also that a complete picture of structural deformities cannot be known before tunneling. While the rescue of the trapped personnel at the Sri Sailam tunnel is paramount, there has to be proper investigation by the authorities on the reasons for the collapse and action taken if evidence emerges or the tardy pre-tunnel analysis. Influential criminals should not be allowed to evade justice indefinitely. The adage that the wheels of justice grind slowly but grind exceedingly fine may be true, but there are times when punishment for crime comes so late that it is hardly recognizable as justice. The patience of a family's long wait for justice may have been rewarded this week when the Congress leader Sajjan Singh was sentenced to life imprisonment for the killing of a 50-year-old man and his 18-year-old son by a frenzied mob during anti-Sikh program in Delhi in 1984. But no justice system ought to be proud of a verdict that comes 40 years after the crime. This is the second case in which Mr. Kumar, then a Congress MP, has been found guilty of leading a mob. In 2021, the Delhi High Court reversed a trial court judgment acquitting him of overseeing the killing of 5 people in the same locality, Rajnagar, and sentenced him to imprisonment for the rest of the life. His involvement in leading the riotous mob was known to many, witnessed by some, but covered up by all those who mattered. The police had initially failed to carry out genuine investigation, registered omnibus first information reports for many separate incidents, and discouraged complainants and witnesses from naming or describing the assailants, only recorded the loss of property and belongings looted by the mobs that ransacked houses before burning them. However, public outcry, political activism, and the change of regime over the years have ensured that there were mechanisms from time to time to reopen closed probes and record testimony. The Justice Rangnath Mishra Commission, Justice Nanavati Commission, and Jain Agrawal Committee affidavits filed before these panels purported contradictions in them, and the questions of whether these disclosures were made at the earliest opportunity have all been exploited by defense lawyers to delay trials over the years. But a few made it to the very end. These outcomes kept a silver of hope alive for at least a few victims, the latest being the three women who witnessed Jaswant Singh and his son Tarundeep being beaten and burned before their eyes. It is a fact that fixing criminal liability in a mob violence is extremely difficult, but the lesson is that the problem of funding credible witness should not be compounded by manipulated investigations. Even in this case, the last word has not been said by as Mr. Kumar may question the funding of this guilt in appeal. A belated conviction may be seen as a proof that the influx of time needed need not be an impediment to justice. Or one may wonder if it is inevitable that influential people can evade the law long enough so they have a full and untrammeled political career before their role is proved. Apprehensions about the language issue in new education policy must be sincerely addressed. India's diverse cultural identities should not be marred by any of the hegemonic policies imposed by the center. We have already seen that it is this issue that caused much strife in the past. The success of the three language formula will depend on resources being made available to teachers. Authentic translation of good books from one language to others must be encouraged to inculcate student interest in literature and diversity. Job scenarios must be done in such a way that people have links with their regional language. The Aam Aadmi Party has already experienced a major setback in the Delhi Assembly election. The CAG's report only adds insult to injury and may dim the prospects of the party in the long run. With corruption charges against party bigwigs, the party seems to have lost its funding mojo, an anti-corruption USP, yet all is not lost. The party ought to revisit its policies and can stage a turnaround, provided it starts working on its founding principles. If one ever needed proof for the saying justice delayed is justice denied, he does not need to look beyond the verdict in the Sajjan Kumar case. Yes, the long arm of the law has shown that even the high and mighty can face justice, but 4 decades is a way too long a period for it to be considered that justice has been delivered. It will not provide much solace to the families of the victims. The devastating fall for German Social Democratic Party, unprecedented result for Alternative for Germany, and the win for the Friedrich Merz-led alliance and are the lesson for the rest of Europe. The European Union's attachment with the human rights and asylum is wreaking havoc on the mainstream politics. The AFD has emerged as a force and may well secure victory the next time. The bigger tragedy is the railways and its systemic inertia. In the cacophony of religious fervor for a holy dip at the Kumbh, amidst bustling railway stations, jostling crowds, and the ceaseless proclamations by the Indian Railways about the number of train services and passengers ferried to Prayagraj, lies an inconvenient truth. The approach to passenger safety and convenience is at best tragically outdated and at worst a harbinger of disaster. It is a bitter pill to swallow, but swallow it we must. For a recent tragedy, the stampede at New Delhi railway station on February 15 has now once again exposed the chinks in armor of the Indian Railways. It has laid bare systemic failures born not of resource constraints but of indifferences to basic needs. The first question Half truths. The first question is unavoidable. Was the stampede at New Delhi avoidable? The answer yes, it was. Amidst all the noise and shifting of blame, there are certain half truths that demand scrutiny. For the halves that remain hidden also conceal the seeds of tragedy. In any crowd control scenario, a stampede is averted by ensuring smooth, largely unidirectional movement, eliminating bottlenecks, and implementing robust barricading with adequate staffing of security personnel, ensuring smooth unidirectional movement, eliminating bottlenecks, and implementing robust barricading. Railway representatives have reportedly asserted that no platform changes were made, yet the last minute announcement of a special unreserved train to Prayagraj on platform 12, when there was already a massive crowd of unreserved passengers on platform 14 for the Prayagraj Express, was tantamount to a chain triggering a surge of chaotic, conflicting movements. It is also learned, although not verified yet, that the control room, equipped with CCTV coverage, failed to stop the escalators notorious for becoming bottlenecks in such situations. Moreover, the number of railway protection personnel on one hand and the security arrangements and barricading on other was inadequate. The claims that such a massive crowd, particularly unreserved passengers, was unforeseen defies logic. The Ministry of Railways was proud to announce that over 15 lakh passengers travelled nearly in 350 trains to Prayagraj in February. A simple calculation shows that this translates to 300 unreserved passengers in a coach packed like sardines. New Delhi is the focal point for travelers from North India, and the magnitude of the crowd could have been anticipated based on the recent significant bathing days at the Kumbh. The Indian Railways' assertion that it was caught off guard by a sudden surge in ticket sales towards the evening is a weak line of defense. The blame has been subtly shifted onto travelers that they congregated in huge numbers, that they bought a large number of tickets, and that they did not heed announcements. Yet none of this was unprecedented. Festival times always draw huge crowds, and special trains run routinely to ferry passengers primarily to the eastern parts of the country. Unreserved tickets are typically sold in large numbers on such occasions, and there are established protocols to handle this. And that the Delhi division of Indian Railways had to do was to replicate the tried and tested chhat arrangements that have been implemented for decades. Certain crowd control measures introduced after the tragedy, such as additional security personnel, creation of holding areas, better CCTV monitoring, stopping the sale of platform tickets, and hardly rocket science. Were it not for the grief of the victims' families, it would be tempting to call this tragedy a comeuppance for the railways amidst its grandiose proclamations. On one hand, it reveals the railway's hollow attempt to sell a commodity it does not possess, ensuring dignified travel for devotees. On the other hand, it exposes the railway's failure to implement basic crowd control measures well within its capability. For almost a day, railways kept changing its narrative from denial to dilution to obfuscation and staggering insensitivity. There was conflicting statements by various spokespersons, culminating in a grotesque spectacle of distributing ex gratia payments to the families bereaved even before confirming the death toll, as if that were not bad enough. Statements from responsible government quarters suggested having a probe into alleged conspiratorial fake news triggering the stampede. The blame game, marked by cynicism, echoes the railway's habit of prematurely attributing every mishap or near accident to sabotage, despite not a single case having been proven. History is replete with warnings, yet the regime in the railways, which includes those earlier two, seems to behave like a student who refuses to learn. There have been similar tragedies before, which include the stampede at Elphinstone Road railway station in Mumbai in September 2017 and at the Allahabad station during Kumbh Mela in February 2013. But the past, as they say, is prologue, but only if one is willing to learn from it. Another flaw, disturbingly, the first step towards accountability is already a misstep. The high level inquiry is to be conducted by senior railway executives overseeing the very departments that may be culpable. In stark contrast, even a single fatality in a train accident warrants the investigation by Commissioner of Railway Safety, an entire entity independent of the Ministry of Railways. Although technically not categorized as a train accident, an independent inquiry, whether by CRS or in another external agency, who would demonstrated the railway's commitment to transparency. Yet it stands, the railways is both the accused and the judge. The heart of the issue runs even deeper. Is there an ingrained malaise within the railways, the supposed lifeline of the nation, that the more things should change, the more they stubbornly remain the same, until the railways confronts its own systemic inertia? Tragedies such as these will to be written off as unfortunate inevitabilities rather than preventable failures. A leap backward for maternity entitlements. Even as state after state is splurging on cash transfers for women, the most vulnerable among them, pregnant women, continue to be deprived of their legal right to maternity benefits. Worse, whatever little used to be paid to them seems to be shrinking. The main responsibility for this lies with the central government. Under the National Food Security Act 2013, all pregnant women except those already covered in the formal sector are entitled to maternity benefits of 6,000 a child. At today's prices, this would mean 12,000 at the very least. Even that, of course, is a pittance. Still, affirming the principle of universal maternity entitlements was a groundbreaking feature of the NFSA. Even in relatively well-off households, pregnant women are often deprived of nutritious foods, health care, or rest time. Maternity benefits help them to look after themselves and the newborn child. Meager as they are, the maternity benefits under NFSA are yet to be delivered. The central government is making a pretense of doing so under the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. The PM Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana's benefits, however, are restricted to one child or family, recently extended to second child if it is a girl. This restriction is a blatant violation of the Act. Further, the benefits have been arbitrarily reduced to 5,000 for the first child. Even if restricted and reduced benefits are being denied to large number of entitled women, this failure is well hidden because the Ministry of Women and Child Development discloses the very little information on PMV. PMMVY. The ministry seems unaware of the Section 4 of the RTI Act, which calls for proactive disclosure of basic information. Even the simplest of the Pradhan Mantri Vayu Vandana Yojana statistics are not in the public domain. Ministry, however, did respond to our RTI queries on the Pradhan Mantri Vayu Vandana Yojana. Based on this information, we have estimated the Pradhan Mantri Vayu Vandana Yojana's effective coverage, defined as a proportion of pregnant women who receive at least one installment of PMMVY's benefits. This is a broad definition. First installment is just 3,000 and strict conditionalities apply to the second installment, front loaded for second child girls. The estimates are sobering. Effective coverage peaked at unimpressive 36% and declined sharply after that, except for a partial revival in 22-23 and 23-24. The crash is also visible in the budget figures. Central government spending was at all-time low of 870 crore in 23-24. We discussed these figures with the officials concerned in the Department of Women and Child Development. At the central and state levels, they did not deny that Pradhan Mantri Vayu Yojana has come to a virtual standstill in 23-24. They blamed this on major changes in software and implementation process that were introduced in late 23. Further scrutiny of this data suggests the main problem was not a reduction in applications, but a reduced disbursement rate. According to one official, there were software problems. The problem, however, did not begin in 23-24. The Pradhan Mantri Vayu Indana Yojana launched in 2017 has been plagued with complications all along. More than a few of them are related to Aadhaar-based payments and digital tyranny. There have been numerous reports that have drawn attention to these complications and exclusionary effects. Instead of responding to these ground reports, however, the central government created more complications with disastrous consequences for Indian women. The government For the government, of course, the reduction in Pradhan Mantri Vayu Indana Yojana is a good deal. Could this be one reason why the tendency to create hurdles is so resilient? Meanwhile, states such as Tamil Nadu and Odisha have shown the possibility of designing simple and effective maternity benefit schemes from 1987 to 2000 onwards, respectively. Monetary support offered by them is more substantial, 10,000 for a child in Odisha and 18,000 a child in Tamil Nadu. In Odisha, the amount was doubled ahead of 24 general election. In Tamil Nadu, the DMK promised to increase it to 24,000 in its 24 election, but the party appears to be waiting for the next election to implement this promise. Not only are the amounts higher in Odisha and Tamil Nadu, but their implementation is also much better. Figure reports reported in Odisha's economic survey suggest the maternity benefits covered about 64% of all births there in 21-22. In the formal sector, Indian women enjoys a full 26 years weeks of paid maternity leave based on 2017 compared to with a World Health Organization norm of 14 weeks. In an unorganized sector, they get a flat 5,000 if they are lucky enough to survive all the hoops they have to jump through to the PMMVY benefits. These double standards are mind-boggling. The time has come to admit that PMMVY is a flop show. Central government seems to be more concerned with saving money than with helping pregnant women. As a result, it has ruined a program that could have proved very useful and popular. It also stands in flagrant violation of the NFSA. Entire program needs to be revamped in line with the letter and spirit of the act. A whopping 1.4 crore people take holy dip on Shivratri as Mahakumbh draws to a close. Delimitation won't cut Lok Sabha seats in South. CBI seizes crypto worth 24 crore in Bitcoin scam. Gain Bitcoin scam case. Government question pleas seeking lifetime ban. By confining the operation of penalty to appropriate length of time, deterrence is ensured, while undue harshness is avoided. The petitions fail to make a crucial distinction between the basis of disqualification and effect of disqualification. The basis of disqualification is conviction for an offence, but the basis becomes non existent when the period of conviction ends. Besides, the government said imposing a life ban would amount to rewriting Section 8 by replacing 6 years with a lifelong. Supreme Court cannot legislate, that was entirely the domain of Parliament. A lifetime disqualification is the maximum that can be imposed under the provisions, and to impose such a disqualification is certainly within the power of Parliament. It is the trite law that courts cannot direct Parliament to make a law to legislate in a particular way. A report by Amicus Curiae, senior advocate, said about 5,000 criminal cases against MPs and MLAs were still pending despite directions passed by the apex court from time to time to facilitate their speedy disposal. It is a matter of shame that of, after all this, 42% of sitting Lok Sabha members have criminal cases. Ukraine US agree on a basic deal on minerals. Mr. Trump let Ukraine know that he wanted something in return for tens of billions of dollars in US help to fend off the invasion that Russia launched just over 3 years ago on February 24, 2022. Stalin trying to turn NEP into a campaign issue. Russia's Trump's Russia-Ukraine policy hangs over EU-India talks. Stung by the shifts in the US foreign policy, particularly on the Russia Ukraine conflict, the 2 day visit in the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and 21 EU commissioners beginning Thursday will send the message that Europe is shoring up other partners, including India. Communal violence flares up in Jharkhand's Hazaribagh over Mahashivratri celebrations. Months ahead of polls, 7 BJP MLAs joined Nitish cabinet. India singles out Volkswagen in $1.4 billion tax dispute, says Kia corrected course. Russia US envoys to meet in Turkey to discuss the operations of embassies. Ukraine can forget about joining NATO, says Trump. Coal-fired power plants in India cut rice wheat yield by up to 10%. Nitrogen oxides are a side effect of India's coal dependence. They are phytotoxic, meaning they stress plants, and they are known to hinder cellular function and worsen crop damage. As the 25-26 economic survey as well as energy experts have noted, coal power plays a crucial role in India's growth at the moment, has allocated 225 to 55% more for the Ministry of Coal. India's demand for food is soaring as well. PhD student Kirat Singh and his colleagues turned the spotlight and less explored consequences of nitrogen dioxide on crop productivity. Nitrogen oxides in general are established side effect of India's coal dependence. They are phytotoxic, meaning less stress plants, and have been known to hinder cellular function and interfere with crucial enzymatic activities. To tracking plant health to compensate for the lack of ground monitoring stations, researchers use data from satellite images to glean high resolution insights into nitrogen NO2 concentration across India. Since multiple power plants contribute to NO2 pollution across different distances, researchers summed up all coal attributable NO2 emissions reaching each location instead of isolating individual sources. Then, to estimate how NO2 from coal-fired power plants affect crop yield, researchers turned satellite-derived vegetation index. They used physical signal called the near-infrared reflectance of vegetation as a proxy for plant health. Using NIRV measures greenness. Healthy crops are richer in chlorophyll, which can be detected by visible light. Using pre-established coefficients, researchers could link NO2 levels measured by Tropomi satellite to changes in NIRV. Blowing in the wind, they also analyzed wind patterns to differentiate between pollution from coal plants and other industrial sources. Uttar Pradesh has high overall NO2 levels, but only a small proportion of that came from coal power. Tamil Nadu has relatively low NO2 pollution, but a bulk of it came from coal power. Crop damage intensity as measured as monetized loss per gigawatt hour of electricity generated for wheat touched to 17,000 gigawatt hour, 15 lakh and 11 lakh. India's rice production could gain for $20 million a year and wheat $400 million a year, 7,000 crore in total. When you are crafting a policy around controlling pollution from the power sector, considering crop impact alongside health and greenhouse gas emissions can help policymakers prioritize where the pollution control equipment should be installed. If you want to optimize the money that is being invested in installing all of the pollution control equipment, you want to focus on power plants where it would bring the most benefit. Policymakers might find information in our research that could be helpful in terms of figuring out which power station is to prioritize. Non-SI units to measure radiation dose, RAD and REM, sources of low-level radiation to which we are natural background radiation. South will not lose Lok Sabha seats on delimitation. Government exam questions petitions in Apex Court for lifetime ban on convicted politicians. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.